we're going to spend the next couple of minutes talking about how to build the basic daylight exposure wheel. So this wheel is going to be super important for us over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be using it to determine the exposure for the next 4 assignments. So we're just going to go through how to construct this, and then we'll talk a little bit about how to go about and use it. So you're going to need the actual printout of the basic daylight exposure wheel. If you don't already have one, you can download one from the class website. Otherwise, you'll use the one that I give you. You're also going to need a pair of scissors, you're going to need a pen or a pencil, and then also a little brass fastener. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start to fill in some of the missing blanks. So the big wheel here, it already has a little bit of information for us. So these lines here that already have numbers filled in, these are going to represent ISO settings on our camera, which our camera will go from 100 ISO all the way up to 25,600 as the highest ISO. So those ones are already there for us. It also has marked these 3 kind of generic categories: expansive depth of field, medium depth of field, and shallow depth of field. And then in between those 2 spaces, there's already also written an F number, F45. Now, most of our cameras won't actually go to F45, but that's going to be kind of our starting point. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and fill in the rest of the f-stop numbers that our camera has along the way here. So we're just going to go ahead and write F32, F22, 16, 11, 8, 5.6. Now, you might want to make some sort of indication at this point, so I'm just going to kind of make a line that kind of divides this area here. Now, the reason for that is most of our cameras will, for sure, they will all go to at least 5.6. They a lot of times will go down to f4 because our kit lenses, they are 18 to 140 millimeters. So depending on the focal length, if I'm zoomed in or zoomed out, sometimes I can achieve an f4, sometimes I can't. So as we're calculating some of the things, I would recommend just kind of staying above this area here so that we know that we'll always have a combination that's available on our camera. Again, sometimes f4 is, but sometimes it's not. Now, if we continue in this direction, we also have f2.8 and f2. Now, only a couple of cameras, or lenses for our cameras, will be able to achieve this. The 50 millimeter prime will be able to go down to 2.0. It actually will go to 1.8, but that's not another full f-stop, so we're going to leave that off. So just know that these 3 numbers here may not be achievable on all camera lens combinations. Okay, so that completes that part. Then in this next smaller wheel, what we're going to do is we're going to be filling in the rest of these shutter speed numbers. So currently the only shutter speed number that's been written on here is 6400. So what we're going to do is go ahead and fill in the rest of the shutter speeds. Shutter speed numbers are a little bit easier than the f-stop numbers. They'll make a little more sense. So anytime we're talking about moving from one f-stop to the next or one shutter speed to the next, it's always a halving or a doubling of the light. Now with f-stop numbers, that may not seem clear because it uses a slightly different formula. But when we do move from 5.6 to 8, it is twice the amount of light or half the amount of light. So for these ones, it'll be easy. We'll just cut these numbers in half. So our first one's 6400, so we're going to go down to 3200, and then 1600, and then 800, 400, and then 200, 100, 50, and 25. Now, I paused there for just a moment because our basic daylight exposure wheel is going to be based on our relationship between ISO 100 and shutter speed 100. We're using those settings. In the old film days, you would have used 125 because that was kind of the standard film. So these shutter speeds are going to correspond with the ISO 100. So when it goes from 25, the next f-stop number on the camera is going to be 13. they end up rounding up on that one. And then after 13, it is 6, so they rounded down. And then it'll be easy 3. But then the next one, for whatever reason, isn't 1.5, it's 1.6. Then again, I'm gonna make another kind of divider line, and I'm gonna write up here, this is gonna divide seconds. So all of the other shutter speeds that we're going to write in here are 1 full second or more. So this was actually a fraction, 1/1.6 of a second. So this one's going to be 1.3, and on the camera it's going to indicate seconds with these little quotation marks. So 1.3, then it goes up to 2.5, then it goes to 5, and then the math becomes easy again, 10, and then 20. Now, the last shutter speed that our camera has is 30, but that's not a full f-stop, so we're going to go ahead and exclude that for right now, because that would only be 2/3 of a stop. Our camera doesn't go to 40 seconds, so we're going to leave that one blank. Okay, so that's the way that we need to kind of fill out our form. So if you're waiting to get scissors or you know, something like that, you can go ahead and fill those in first. So then we're going to go ahead and cut those 2 circles out. So we want to make sure that we cut out that little tab or window there. So there's our wheel. So then we're just going to need the brad or the fastener. And, you know, even though it may not look like, you know, that this little, where is it at? That this little tip is, you know, sharp, it's kind of rounded. But when you go and you poke through the paper, you know, it's thin, so it can easily kind of jab right through your, into your finger. So what I would do is just kind of spread your fingers out just a little bit. And what we want to do is just line it up as close as we can to the center of the circle, and then go ahead and press that through, all the way through. And then again, spreading our fingers, again, get that, you know, lining up with that hole there. And again, as close to the center as possible, and then insert that through. Once it's all the way through, then just spread out the 2 tabs so that it's going to secure. Okay. So now we've got a functioning wheel.